The story begins with a very clever boy named Tom, who, during his school days, solved a major problem like the Mexican oil spill, leaving major oil companies worldwide in awe. Even before finishing college, Tom received job offers from the 8 largest oil companies globally, with an annual salary of $400,000. However, rejecting these lucrative offers, Tom accepted an offer from a man named Walter Moreland in Spain. This job required him to use his sharp mind to open a vault considered the most secure in the world. In reality, there was something inside this vault that Walter desperately wanted. But for the past 80 years, no one had succeeded in breaking into this unique vault. After this, Walter introduced Tom to his team. Walter mentioned that a few months ago, he had discovered a ship that had sunk in the ocean many years ago. A box was recovered from it, which contained clues to an immense treasure. However, the Spanish government soon found out about this, seized everything Walter had discovered, and locked it in a Spanish bank's vault. Tom met Walter's daughter, Lorenz, who was an expert in disguises for her missions. Apart from her, their team included Klaus, an incredible hacker, and James, Walter's right-hand man, who was once a soldier and is now a formidable fighter. Simon was responsible for providing everything the team needed. As long as he was paid, he could bring anything in the world for Walter. Anyway, today was Tom's first day, and the team was having trouble hacking the bank system. They needed to input a code but had no idea what the code could be. Then Tom suggested that they should impersonate the bank's automated voicemail when talking to a client and obtain the code that way. Eventually, Tom's trick worked, and they easily got the code. Everyone praised Tom, and he arrived at his new home. The next day, Tom, along with the rest of the team, began studying the Bank of Spain's layout. According to Walter, this building is the most secure in the world because thousands of sensors and cameras are installed, and the guards leave no gaps in security. Their biggest challenge was the Spanish Army's headquarters, which was built right in front of the bank. Whenever the bank's security alarms go off, 500 soldiers from the headquarters would immediately storm the bank. Additionally, the bank's security chief was a former commander of Spain's counterterrorism force. Now, Walter's team was up against a force that knew how to protect the bank at any cost. Moreover, Walter's team had no information about the layout inside the vault. So, they would have to scan and obtain this information. To enter this vault, they needed 2 keys and the security chief's fingerprints. The team decided to enter the bank to achieve their goal. Tom and Simon, disguised as cleaners, accompanied Lorraine, who was there to inspect and ensure some invaluable paintings. The keys were stored in the vaults behind these paintings. When the security chief escorted Lorraine to the room, she handed him her coffee, obtaining his fingerprints in the process. After that, she reached the room with the first painting, where Klaus had hacked the bank's cameras. He recorded Lorraine scanning the painting and played the footage 10 times slower. During this time, Lorraine opened the vault and copied the design of the key. However, the bank's director suddenly arrived, and there were only 20 seconds left before the camera would resume recording. Lorraine had to stand in the same spot 20 seconds later, but the director intervened. Lorraine then cleverly distracted him by asking him to take a picture, allowing her to move away. After that, she started searching for the second key, while Tom, disguised as a cleaner, had to scan the vault. He believed that the Real Vault was located right below the meeting room. Tom quickly hid under the table and started scanning with his machine. But suddenly, some people entered the room for a meeting. Tom was now trapped under the table, and his scanning machine malfunctioned. After some fiddling, Tom managed to get the machine working, and the scan was completed. However, an alarm was triggered, and the security chief locked down the entire bank just as the soldiers were heading out. Meanwhile, Lorraine had just finished duplicating the second key when the bank's director came to collect it. In the rush, she forgot to return the original key. The team then decided that Lorraine would hand the key to Tom, and Tom would return it to the vault. Tom went to the 3rd floor, placed the key back, and closed the vault. Just then, he realized that a guard was approaching the room. Tom cleverly pretended to be caught on purpose and acted as if he hadn't heard the security alarm due to his headphones. The guard let him go, and their mission was accomplished. Afterward, Tom reviewed the scan obtained from the machine and noticed that there was an area in the vault's map that wasn't visible. He realized that the area was filled with water. The vault was actually on a scale, and as soon as the weight inside the vault changed, it would automatically close, filling with water. The team then understood that to enter the vault, they would need to balance its weight. They worked tirelessly day and night to figure out a way to balance the weight. Meanwhile, Simon and Jeeves investigated the ground beneath the vault and confirmed Tom's suspicion. The vault was indeed built on a massive scale, but its weight was balanced at 0. Moreover, they faced another challenge. The walls of the underground room were made of titanium steel, so strong that drilling through it would take 15 days. To complete their mission, Walter's team had very little time, and it seemed impossible to steal the box and escape in such a short period, so they finally gave up. Walter then went up to the roof in frustration and saw that the streets were packed with football fans. His eyes caught the bank's cameras, and he realized that all the World Cup Files cameras would be focused on the crowd. That's when he had a light bulb moment. He then demonstrated his idea to his team. He removed the glass, sprinkled liquid nitrogen on the scales, and then replaced the glass. But this time, the weight didn't change because the scales had frozen. Tom suggested that they could freeze the scales beneath the vault in the same way, but it would require a lot of liquid nitrogen. Anyway, they decided to execute their plan on the day of the Spain and Netherlands football match. They had only 105 minutes to complete the mission. First, they reached the bank's roof using a zip line and entered through an open window. After that, they reached the room outside the vault through a 100-meter piping route. From there, they advanced by placing a ladder and finally stood before the vault. Klaus then showcased his hacking skills, and the team used their custom-made keys and fingerprints to open the vault. Meanwhile, Simon started freezing the scales under the vault floor by spraying liquid nitrogen on them. Soon, due to this reaction, the vault floor began to freeze. The team then entered the vault and began searching for the box. However, the bank security team discovered the open window on the roof and started heading towards the vault. Lorraine found the box, but what happened next shocked everyone. James was an undercover agent. Greed took over him, so he decided to betray his team and seize the box for himself. Lorraine had no choice but to hand the box over to James. But before they could escape, the effect of the liquid nitrogen on the scales wore off, activating the vault security system. Now, Tom, Lorraine, and James were trapped inside the vault, and the water level was rising rapidly. James, being a former soldier, knew how to swim, so he escaped with the box. Meanwhile, the security chief declared an emergency, and his men armed themselves and rushed towards the vault. By now, the water inside the vault had risen so much that Tom and Lorraine's lives were in danger as they could drown at any moment. Now they had no other option, and at the last moment, Tom had a brainwave and told Simon to add more weight to the scale. This would make the entire machinery think that the vault was filled with water. Simon quickly placed all the nitrogen tanks on the scale, but that wasn't enough. Finally, he placed his radio on it, and that was just enough to increase the weight from the outside. Suddenly, according to the system, the water in the vault started draining out. Meanwhile, the army was just about to break into the vault and catch the thieves red-handed. But as soon as they opened the door, they were shocked because there was no one inside the vault. In reality, Tom and Lorraine had escaped through the drain pipes and reached the upper floor of the bank. Meanwhile, the army and guards were hot on their trail when Lorraine suddenly remembered that the window in the room where she had gone to scan the painting was always left open by the director. Without wasting any time, they jumped out of the window, where a crowd of thousands of fans was gathered. They immediately took off their jackets and blended into the crowd. Meanwhile, the soldiers chasing them were very close, and they were about to get caught. Finally, they were ready to surrender to the police, but just at that moment, Spain won the match, and the fans went crazy with joy. In such a huge crowd, the soldiers couldn't chase Tom and Lorraine, and in the end, they managed to escape. A few days later, James handed the stolen box to his boss, and when they discovered the treasure's location, it turned out to be the location of the Eiffel Tower. They then realized that this was not the security location and that Walter's team had tricked them. In the end, it is revealed that Tom and Lorraine had swapped the real box with a fake one, which is why James had stolen the fake box. Now, Walter's team was enjoying themselves at a resort when they found the real treasure's location in the box. They then discovered that the treasure was hidden in the Bank of England. After this, their team was ready for another new mission. So, how did you like the story?